All year we've been talking about the Guardians pitching staff and the need to make adjustments. They finally made one, and it came at a really important time. We'll talk about the adjustments and how it got the Guardians off to a big start against the Tigers in a big series.
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a Friday episode of Locked On Guardians, celebrating the Guardians' series opening win against the Tigers, throwing a big first punch. Thanks for starting your day off and your weekend off with us here on Locked On Guardians, proud part of Locked On Podcast Network. We cover your Cleveland Guardians every day, from the majors to the minors and the draft and everything in between. I'm Justin Lada, one of your two co-hosts here. I have been watching the Cleveland Guardians my entire life, and I have been writing up their minor league system since 2007. You can find my minor league analysis at the News Herald, the Morning Journal, and my Substack next year in Cleveland. And you can hear me 5 days a week here, my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis.
I am Jeff Ellis. First shout out to former Guardians great Spencer Horwitz for his first home run of the year. Had to have some fun with everyone. I am Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts here. One of the first people brought on when they decided they wanted people to come on and talk about baseball 6 years ago. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout and 24/7. I want to thank you for making today's podcast your first listen today, every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. If we're going to recommend someone on the network, I always recommend my buddy Bryce over at Locked On Rangers. And then in addition, I want to say thank you to all of our everydayers. It's been an up and down season. You everydayers are the lifeblood of this podcast. So thank you all very much for joining us every day.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. And hey, if they won and you're back, welcome back. On today's show, we're going to get into the bullpen a little bit. There were some bullpen issues in this game from one pitcher in particular, but we were going to talk about this anyway, so it's a good time to talk about how bullpen adjustments will be necessary this year for the Guardians. We'll talk about how they threw the first punch, and the offense really was relentless at the end of this game. But we'll start off with the Guardians pitching adjustments, something Jeff and I have been pegging and pleading for all season long. Before we get there, of course, today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All year, Jeff, we've been talking about everybody on the pitching staff, particularly, I'll say, Gavin Williams and Tanner Bibee, oddly enough, that there was some, and not just them specifically. This also extends to Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges. Well, no, I wasn't going to say Ortiz. I think really it's those two, to be honest with you. But it extends to Bo Naylor. It extends
more
Austin
the
Hedges.
Sequencing than the consistency, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the sequencing, and the game plan overall has been frustrating. There's been times this year where Tanner has had issues with control, and to be honest with you, the way that first inning started out, I mean, he had 2 3-ball counts in that first inning, and I thought, all right, this is not going to go well. Like, he can't be behind in the count. The Tigers are playing really well. They feel good about themselves. Their lineup is pretty deep right now, and he really got it going quickly. And the big adjustment that we've been waiting for has been not to rely so much on the fastballs, and the second one really to me is not throwing the fastball up in the zone so much. And we know between starts that's something that Tanner worked on was throwing the ball lower in the zone more, and it showed in this one. And not only did he throw the ball lower in the zone better, his pitch mix to me was the best it's been all year. The changeup was the best it's been all year. He really hasn't thrown the curveball this year. He broke that back out. I mean, he threw all of his pitches in double-digit percentages. I mean, he did throw the fastball 34% of the time, but he threw a sweeper 20% of the time, the changeup 13%, the cutter 13%, the sinker 10%, and the curveball 10%. He really threw his entire arsenal. He had 14 whiffs in this game, 5 on the changeup, and then he had 8 swings total on the sinker and curveball, and 4 swings and misses total for 50% on both of those. Like, he really mixed everything up. He was low in the zone, and the pitch mix was as varied as it's been all year. And I think that's the key for Tanner, is you've got to be able to adjust and throw low in the zone, because these guys are expecting you to A, be around the strike zone, and B, be up in the zone. But when he's relying on the fastball, the cutter, the sinker, and the sweeper, he's leaving out the curveball and the changeup. And maybe he hasn't had those pitches at points this year. Maybe he's had a hard time getting a feel for them, or just didn't have it on a particular day. he had all of it working today, and that was probably the best time for him to have it all working, really, to start the series off against the Tigers. That's what you want an ace to do, right? That's what you want your ace to do. You want your ace to come out with his A game in a big series, especially game one of the series where you can give yourselves a little momentum if that really does exist in baseball.
Yeah, and it's interesting with this team because all they do is win that first game. Like, I mean, they win a lot of games, but that is the one thing. If they've had a superpower this year, it's winning the first game in a series. And this is the one when you're looking at the matchups, you do feel like they have a slight advantage because Flaherty hasn't been very good this year. He is not. Like, say what you want to say about various burner accounts out there, but I saw one that was very accurate and true about the fact that almost every starting pitcher who got a multi-year contract has been pretty bad this year for teams. Like it's always a big gamble when you're going after starting pitching, and Flaherty hasn't been there. But at the same time, for all of Flaherty's struggles, Tanner's struggles have been worse. He had the lowest WAR of any pitcher on the team. You and I are big believers, and we knew Tanner would figure this out eventually. He's Mr. Extreme is what I texted you. Like this is his third time going into the 7 innings, and
the only pitcher that's done it this year for Cleveland.
Yeah, and he's done it 3 times, but then he has the other games where he's not missing any bats. When he got to 6 strikeouts, I believe that was a new high, and he ended up with 8 for this year. So I believe in him figuring out getting everything together. But it's not. I mean, even Tanner I think would agree that it's been not a great start, and him settling down means a lot to this team on multiple levels. And it's not like I need to give you analysis. You all know that when your ace performs, headline, team needs ace to perform well. But I think to me, what's interesting, and I was also talking with Justin off air about this, is that even though Tanner has had his struggles this year, and last year was nails, I still feel better about this rotation, like a lot better now than I did at this time a year ago. So even with inconsistency across the board and players you're still kind of waiting on seeing exactly what they can do, you have to feel good. And when Tanner, this is his best game of the year, and I do feel like this is the biggest game of the year so far. Like my general view is like, you don't try to get too high or too low, but when you're facing the team in front of you, that is always a little bit of extra juice. When it's a division rival, I think there is some more juice there. And he was awesome all game long.
Yeah, the Tigers have been playing well this year, and they've earned the spot they're in. And if the Guardians don't want to be chasing them all year or kept at length, you have to go out and play well this series so you can keep yourselves within punching distance. And how about the adjustment too they made with Cade Smith? I mean, last outing at Minnesota, we were really concerned. Not really concerned, but we were a little bit concerned.
All 4 seams.
Yeah, that was all 4 seams. The velocity was down. He was hittable. And he came in to the highest pressure cooker you can imagine. I mean, 7th inning. And no, it was 8th inning because Tanner went 7. 8th inning. Yeah. And bases loaded, nobody out. And he had to wind up getting Riley Green for the last out. And I don't know why I guess I know why they pinch hit for Kerry Carpenter, but I would have probably, that was against Tim Herrin. Never mind. That was before. But that really helped
Carpenter's
out
got some pretty ugly splits.
Yeah, he does. But Cade went out there and his fastball was good again, but it was good because they set it up with the splitter. You saw Bo Naylor just kept calling for the splitter. Guys were swinging over the top, and they couldn't do it. He threw that pitch 6 times. He got 5 whiffs and a foul ball. Nobody put the ball in play against him because he struck out all 3 with the bases loaded, which at that point was still a 3-0 game. Yeah. You go out and you give up 2 runs, and giving up 2 runs in that situation might still be successful because you're like, all right, bases loaded, nobody out. A sack, maybe it's a sack fly, whatever. He shut the door on them, and that really pushed the Tigers back, and the Guardians were able to add on after that. But those adjustments for Cade Smith were huge. Like Bo Naylor saw what they were doing against the splitter, and he kept calling for it, and that kept him off the fastball too, and that was really important. So I hope that is kind of a blueprint for Cade Smith going forward to get back to Tanner in this game was 2024 Tanner, and Cade Smith in that game was 2024 Cade Smith.
100%. And I think too, like in some ways, it's even more stressful because the bases are loaded when it should instead be like first and second with 1 out. The lost ball in the terrible conditions right before it, I think that makes it even all the more of a stressful situation. And then to manage to navigate that and Cade to be amazing. I've got a question for all the listeners at the end, so make sure you tune in because I need some help answering a thought experiment for this game. So make sure you are tuning in then. But we got to discuss more about the bullpen, don't we?
We will get more to the bullpen at the end of today's show. We'll jump next in to the Guardians lineup, talk about how they were able to throw the first punch and how important it was for the Guardians to win game 1 of this series. That's coming up next on today's Locked On Guardians. The NBA playoffs, they are going on still. Things are wild. Every night is delivering a highlight-worthy performance. There's momentum shifts. There's can't-miss moments every night this playoffs for the NBA. And if it's a game-winning shot, a breakout player, this is a great time for you to get in on the action with FanDuel because they make it easy. Before tip-off and live, they have player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, and fans like you now have more ways to play smart and win big. Smart and big. Good things. I was actually checking the Guardians odds over on FanDuel. They are now plus 1,100 to win the division. So they've actually fallen back the last couple of days. Maybe that had something to do with the Reds series and the Twins series. I don't know. The Tigers are still way out front there. So you could place yourself a long-term gamble on the Guardians for the division. As for Friday's game, it's Slate Ciccone and Jackson Jobe. The Tigers favored by 1.5. The run over under is 8.5. I'm probably going to take the over on that. The Tigers are going to play much better, and Jackson Jobe's I don't know, he's a tough customer, so I might take the over in that one if I'm being honest. But if you are new to FanDuel, it is the perfect time for you to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get over $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Man, it was really good to see the Guardians. I feel like the momentum in baseball is such a weird thing. Like, what's the old adage about it's only as good as your next day's starting pitcher? But I feel like within the actual game itself, for the Guardians to turn the tide the way they did, they're up 3-0, and that we talked about the bases loaded situation with Cade Smith, goes out there and strikes out the side in the 8th inning. The Guardians come back in the 9th inning, and with some help of the Tigers defense, they come back and they put up 4 runs and they spread this thing out. Like, that was, again, from beginning to end, was the most complete game they've played all year. There were never mind. I was going to say there are no defensive gaffes, but there was the 8th inning center field issue. There was a lost ball. So, okay, it wasn't their most complete game. It was as close as it was getting this year. Because Tanner was great and Cade Smith was great. We'll talk about Tim Herrin in the next segment a little bit, but Jose was great, and they drew some walks late too. Like that 9th inning, you had Santana, you had Manzardo draw walks. That was huge. And then Ángel Martínez smoked a ball. Both the balls he hit tonight were absolutely laced. Like, I know Leighton Thomas didn't have a great night. He did have a sac fly in that inning, which actually ended up being kind of important too. So that was good to see. But I feel like having Leighton Thomas back in the lineup, and I feel like he'll get it going again. There's no way he could be as bad as he was before he got hurt. And then he had the wrist issue. So if he's healthy, I feel like he'll get it going. That really lengthens your lineup a little bit because now you've got Ángel Martínez hitting a little bit lower in the lineup, and maybe he should be hitting higher against righties. But I love having Ángel Martínez that low in the lineup because it just kind of gives you a little more length. And he made an adjustment too. He is normally a guy who crushes the low ball. That home run he hit was on a pitch that was like up out over his chest, so that was huge to see. But I love that they slammed the door in the 8th inning from Cade Smith. 9th inning came out and did some really good things offensively. They drew the walks. The Tigers got the air, and they just kept adding on from there. They saw blood or they smelled blood, and they went for it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at everything that happened outside of like Santana's slippage going to first, which made my heart stop. I don't know if that was that case for anyone else. Great. I
didn't love that.
No, but like, going back even further, it's like Santana's double, like the way that he is just continually coming up late for this team that kind of got things going. And then he leads off that inning with the walk. He kind of helps set the tone for them offensively and gets them going in that inning. And I mean, Jose had a bad at bat. He's been great.
Well, Santana got him going in the game with that double.
Yeah, in the double.
I'm sorry.
It's like
that was the Manzardo walk. Was the 4th inning? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it was Manzardo had the walk, and then the double. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Santana got him going, and then he got him going with the walk in the top of the 9th there, and then in that inning, like almost everyone was productive. not a great at bat for Noel, and then Jose. It was just kind of a ugly swing there, a little too inside. But Jose again, another 2-hit game. He was fantastic. Martinez. This was the hardest all year to pick a 3 stars of the game. We'll talk about that later on. But yeah, it's Santana. I think one of the big things right now is Quan is still up and down, having some struggle points here and there, but they have two guys. If you look in the top 25 in OPS in the month of May, Santana and Jose are there. And that's helping drive this offense right now when you have 2 players performing at that level. And Ángel, for the concerns that he might be streaky, and we talked about like concerns with Ángel and Gabby, like they gave Gabby the night off, which is needed. But Angel's stayed really productive. He continues to make the plays to show why he's. I think we're done penciling him in. I think he's written on this roster in ink at this point.
Well, he might have to be just because of the second base situation, and the outfield thing will continue to change. I think we can get to that more next week. But yeah, Angel's not going anywhere, and as long as he plays every day, I think he'll make the adjustments. Like they're obviously with him, like it's an aggressive approach. He doesn't really walk, and that's something you'd like to see more of. But we've talked about how guys don't necessarily change their approach. It's very hard, but he makes a lot of contact and he's hitting the ball hard. Like he's made some adjustments where he can hit the ball hard, and that's been really important for him too. And he's not really carrying like an unrealistic average on balls in play. Like he's hitting 333 on balls in play. That's for a guy who's hitting the ball hard like he did tonight, and for a guy who has the speed he does, like that's something that can be sustainable. Maybe it drops 10 points or so at some point.
Yeah, 10 to 15.
He might be streaky. But that's a guy you want in the lineup. I'd be really curious to see what happens with him in the outfield situation. I mean, he hasn't really played it much as like he doesn't have the platoon because he's a switch hitter, but he's one of those guys who hasn't really played based on platoons. Like he's just been in the lineup every day. I like his swing from the right side too. He hasn't really had a whole lot of opportunities against left-handers, but he's crushed left-handers when he's had chances. He's actually been better against them, but it's only been 24 plate appearances. So yeah, that's a guy that has to be in the lineup every day. I also think that like just getting the first win of this series, like I said, not only did they go out and pour it on at the end of that game after they got out of the 8th inning, I feel like that really pumped them up too, by the way. Like I think you could really see the attitude and just the body language that getting out of the 8th inning was so big for them. And to be able to pour it on late, you didn't have to go to Class A because you used Cade Smith, who threw 15 pitches. It wasn't like Cade threw a ton of pitches. Like 15 is not bad. That should allow you to bring him back on Friday if you need to, because let's see, Cade Smith has thrown. Yeah, he didn't pitch on. He hasn't pitched since Monday.
No, he pitched Thursday. No, he pitched in the first game of the Thursday doubleheader. Remember, he blew the game. Cade Smith did. He blew the game.
Yeah, it's not showing up on here for some reason. That's weird. Okay, so he did
because that was the Monday game rescheduled.
Yeah, okay, right. You're right. So you want to know? You know what? Maybe he won't pitch tomorrow.
He's probably out. Yeah,
he's probably out. But you did okay. So you didn't use Gaddis. You didn't use Class A. So those are guys that are available on Friday, which is really big. And we talked about like how this series lays out, right? Like Casey Mize, I don't know, has been decent this year, but not up and down. But you got, Slade Ciccone and Jackson Jobe. Jobe's pretty good. Ciccone was good in his first start.
Bad FIP, though. Jobe's FIP is awful.
Yeah. And if you can take the first 2 of the series, like if you can win Friday, then you go into Saturday and Sunday kind of with house money, because the worst you can do coming out of the series is stay where you started. And, you can kind of chalk up Sunday to being Sunday with Tarek Skubal on the mound. But if you can win Friday night, take the first 2, you put yourself in a really good spot to just have to win one of those final 2. And hopefully it's, it'd be great to win against Tarek Skubal on Sunday, but I'm not counting on it. But that's why this first game was so big, to kind of that first matchup of the year. Like this, if the Guardians are going to win the division again this year or compete, the Tigers look like they are going to hang around all year and be the toughest team in the division. So for them to go out and win this game to start off the series was really important.
Yeah. Go check out Jobe's Savant page. It's all blue for the most part.
Ooh.
So they've got a chance. Fastball velocity and average exit velocity are the only things that aren't blue, and his breaking ball run value. So I think that's the game to really focus in on. Jobe's got great stuff. He's got a great future. It's not here yet. And, I think the Cleveland has a chance in that game. very specifically. And Casey Mize, like, he's had good numbers, but again, if I went and looked up his Avant page, I think it's a lot of blue as well, which pains me because I was the Casey Mize August to August #1 on my big board back in the day in his draft class. I sponsored his Baseball Cube page at one point because I was I said I promised I would do that if he went one after I was pole to pole with him. Isn't that the expression they say when you start to finish, right? Isn't that the racing thing? I don't know. Let me know if I am not to that sport at all. So let me know if I got that one wrong. But yeah, I looking at the series, listen, my pipe dream is 3. My reality from the start was I just wanted 1. If they can get 2, I'm feeling great. But I got to be honest, Sunday, we've beaten Skubal before. We've had great performances, but right now, for my money, I think Skubal's the best pitcher on the planet. So I'm not going to get greedy, but I would love to get the next 2, and then you can just cruise into Sunday and be like, hey, whatever.
Yeah, get one of the next 2, especially taking the first 2, cool them off a little bit, and get yourself in a good position. All right, the bullpen. There are some issues that are going on. Cade Smith was awesome. Hunter Gaddis has been great. Clase has been figuring it out. Other guys, not so much. We'll talk about the adjustments that will be necessary for the Guardians bullpen throughout the rest of 2025. Coming up next on today's Locked On Guardians.
Today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, taking pride in what you built, and practicing every detail to get the best results. I know about that very well with this podcast. I remember when I was lucky if the podcast got 100 downloads in the early days. Now we get upset when we don't cross a combined 4,000. Situations like that, or maybe combined 3,000, but still a long way from those 3 or 100 download days. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing the whole supply chain easier. Managing logistics easier. Responding to price changes, you got it, easier. Epicor is going to make it easier for you. For small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier takes the lead. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
Appreciate you making Locked On Guardians your first listen to everywhere you get podcasts. As always, please make sure you hit the bell on YouTube so you always get notified of our videos, new episodes, reactions, any kind of news that comes up. We're putting videos up for, so you don't want to miss those. And then always auto download on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get podcasts. You never miss an episode. And that allows you to get bonus things like MLB Squad Show, which we do every week too, throughout the network, where we get together and just have a lot of fun and talk about the things going on baseball and like to kind of rag on each other and each other's teams. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy being a part of that when it comes around.
Whenever we get the chance to do a live show, because big news happens.
Yes. And whenever we get the chance to do a live show, if there's big news, we always try to give you a live show as well. So make sure you're checking that out. And hey, also become an insider too. Texted our insiders last night while we were recording that Chase DeLauter was on his way to Columbus, and he is indeed in Columbus and should play this weekend for the Clippers. So our insiders found that out first, along with other news, texting during the game. Jeff's got mock drafts and college draft data, and I've got the prospect handbook in there. We also do mailbags with our insiders, all kinds of fun stuff. So check that out as well at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. I imagine at some point, Jeff, we will be sending out a text alert to our insiders when there are bullpen moves made. There's been a lot of people who, want to pull the trigger on different bullpen moves now, and I get that. The one thing that strikes me that has to be done the most, and it can't be done tomorrow, and it can't be done tomorrow and next week, the Tim Herrin thing has been really concerning. Like, he was not great in this game. He's been not great for a while. I think he has the worst FIP among all pitchers with, who aren't like, Austin Hedges or Will Wilson on this team this year. And it's just been really tough. Like, when he's good, he's really good. Like you could see it, and he is really important to this team. But man, the consistency for him just has not been there this year. And again, I think we talked about before, like not having Sam Hentges hurts, and I'll say not having. Too. Yeah, I was gonna say that, but like, could you really count on Eric Sabrowski to do what he did last year? Like, we have no idea what he was gonna do. I think at this point,
nice to have the
right now,
the depth.
Yeah, it is. I guess Tristan McKenzie actually owns the worst FIP of any pitcher, not named Doug Nikhazy, made one outing, but that's not fair. Tim Herrin's got 17 innings. Tristan McKenzie had 5, and he has the lowest FIP now, or lowest WAR of all pitchers on the team at this point. I think at some point this season, Cleveland's going to have to figure out how to add a lefty, because I don't see anybody in the minors who can go into that role. Like, I don't like Joey Cantillo as a left-handed matchup guy. I know there's no matchup guy because that's 3-batter minimum rule, but like the only thing that really went well for the Guardians tonight is that Herrin came in and that forced AJ Hinch to take Kerry Carpenter out. That was good. Even though he didn't get anybody out, like at least I guess that was a win in this situation. But I feel like they're going to have to find themselves a left-hander. Like I look in the minors and I'm like, okay, who can do it? Because it's not Doug. It's not Andrew Misiasek. It's not Parker Mashinsky. And even in Akron, there's just really nobody. Like, there's no lefties in the minors for them to call up and put into that role. They don't have anybody. So either Sabrowski's got to get healthy, or they might have to go out and find another option. And, we're talking about the other day. We didn't get to this the other day, but, like, also, I think they're going to – I know they're probably going to go back to him, but they might have to consider using Jacob Junis in non-leverage spots until he kind of rights the ship here again.
Well, I think, leading off with Herrin, we've talked about how often things are not just one thing. I think it's very interesting that Herrin's arm angle is down 2 degrees and that his extension...
Which sometimes represents an injury, sometimes. Yes. Not always, but sometimes.
And his extension is down slightly as well. So he has it's a tenth, but a tenth is still a change. So he's got 2 separate changes. When you look at the overall data, his curveball is still a really strong pitch. Everything else not so much. And a year ago, all of his pitches were working well, and his command was good. This year, he has really struggled with command. Like, he's not commanding, and he's not controlling. And I should say it's both. Like, his control was great a year ago. Occasionally, he's had his ups and downs with command throughout his career in the minors, as he's had with control. But right now, it's bad for him. So you do wonder. It's like, is it the arm angle? Is it health? Is he trying to work through something? Is it, sometimes guys just lose their angle. He has not had a consistent arm angle the entire time he's been in the big leagues. He was at 30 in his first year. He was 31 last year. He's at 29 this year. So he's also a guy who's just never been consistent in that arm angle, which is frankly not what you want to see, because that does lead to things being a little off when it changes every single year. So we kind of just some things to keep in mind with Herrin. Some of the indicators I see when we look at his stats. The one nice thing I'll say is the curveball still looks like a plus offering. My whole bullpens is just take the best arm available. I don't know if I feel like often trading for a reliever is expensive, and they often aren't very good. Like in recent memory, It's like teams that go out and trade for other teams' relievers. How many times?
Andrew Miller.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit difference when you're talking about the best reliever on the planet at the time, but a lot of relievers got cut last year. Dylan Florio still doesn't have a team. I don't think. I don't know where he even ended up eventually, but like a lot of guys get cut. I still think, you're hoping for Sabrowski. I still think like at some point we just got to kind of admit facts. I think Nikhazy's best role is a reliever. I don't see him as a starter.
I don't either, but like I just don't know if I can trust him in that role either.
I mean, you got to try it at some point, right? Like that's kind of the part with the pen. It's like, I don't know. And the other thing we talked about off air is like the teams that baseball is in, thanks to the, expanded wild cards, there's not a lot of sellers at the deadline. And the teams that are selling are
they have nothing.
Barron, or it's the Rockies who refuse to make trades. I'll point out again, Cal Quantrill is someone they could have traded. Brendan Rodgers, someone they could have traded. They cut both of them. They rebuffed trades, is what we heard, for those players to end up cutting them for nothing, even though they were en route to a bottom record. That's how you end up being as bad as the Rockies are when you're mismanaged to that degree. So there's just not, trading for relievers is you want to trade for someone with a consistent track record. That gets expensive, even in a rental. And oftentimes those guys are already like spoken for. And I'm very curious to see in general what that market looks like, especially after the Phillies lost Alvarado for basically the whole season. It's because once you get, that's a big hit for them. There'll be other teams with needs as well. It's often one where there's a lot of teams swimming and not a lot of, not enough fish for everyone. So we'll have to see. My general view is like hoping that if you need a lefty, that it's going to be, one of these few guys they have, or maybe they can help Herrin figure it out. If not, it's Zabrowski getting healthy. I know this is a lot of maybes instead of certainty, but.
Yeah. All right. We got to ask people to vote on the star, Jeff, before we get out of here.
Yeah. So for first time this year, it's really hard. Justin and I actually disagreed on this. Who's the third star of this game? You have to give it to Cade because he saved the day. You have to give it to Tanner for what he did. Do you give it to Santana, who got things started in both those innings, or do you give it to Martinez, who had the better game? So I don't think there's a wrong answer. I got to be real honest. It's nice when you can have these debates. Comment below. I'm going to make the star on the sheet whoever the YouTube commenters say. Right now on Twitter, it is flown backwards, back and forth, up to 250 voters on this. Martinez at 53% to Santana's 47%. But this was for fun. The real is here in the comments. You all will decide who the third star is. Is Santana a star for the fourth straight game, I think it is? Or does it go to Martinez, who's been a late addition flying up the star chart list? Let us know below. You are muted, my friend.
How did I mute myself? Interesting. We'll be back with you next week. I'll be unmuted by then, and we will talk about the Guardians and Tigers. We'll talk about how the rest of the series plays out. We have to get into how the Guardians are going to handle second base the rest of the year. We'll go around the farm next week, too, and kind of talk about the developments on the farm system. Some good news with guys getting healthy finally, which is great. And at some point, we're also going to talk trade assets. In that same vein, we'll talk about whether or not the Guardians have a farm system that is capable of making a trade for that reliever.
And I want to say again, thank you to everyone who joined us this week. With the rainouts, there was not as much baseball, so we appreciate all of you who joined us each and every day. Go back and check out a show you missed. Thank you again, and go Guardians, go.